Alright, welcome to my Studio and Biz channel. Thank y'all so much for being here. Thank y'all so much for everybody who subscribed and all of those who just keep watching all of my videos and haven't subscribed yet. I still love y'all. And today I would like to share with you how to make your art show happen and organize it. But hold up. I want to let you know that these pieces from the Pura exhibition art show from 2019, they're finally available at the Carraizo Studios website shop, where you can access them, check them out, and purchasing any of the art pieces. So let's get right into it. This is one of those videos where you might want to have a notebook and a pencil, something to write with, because it's pretty extensive, and I just hope that I can help you out on organizing and making happen your own art show. I've organized my own art shows for the last 8 years. The most recent one has been the Pura exhibition that happened at the beginning of August this summer 2019. So shout out to my parents and the family who has been working with me along the way and allowing me to learn from them. I am profoundly grateful. I love y'all. The very first independent art show that I ever did was that Pura exhibition kind of art show, where thanks to those years of experience, I was able to independently organize and make happen my own art show, and allowing myself to delegate and to know what kind of help I had accessible to me. My family was always close by and really helpful throughout the way. So really, I'm just really grateful to have that experience and have that access of help with my family along the way. And that's how I was able to create my very first art show, organized independently. Look, I believe that as an artist, if you want to hire or work with a gallerist, you gotta know how to gallerist first. Because for many years and decades, the fine art industry has always seen the artist as just somebody who gives birth art and produces work, and that's it, when in reality that's just 10% of the artist's career. And the rest of that percent is pretty much taken by the gallerist, and they potentially become thieves of your work. So the first step to doing your own art show is knowing if you already have your body of work done. Now here, and knowing yourself of how you work and everything, do you work well with deadlines? Do you still feel confident working, under pressure? Do you feel comfortable working with deadlines so far? If so, find the space first before having all your work done. If you don't trust yourself having a deadline first, then do your production first. Take your time creating your work before actually finding a space. In that way, you can take all the time you need to take advantage of the time and make sure you have a great quality body of work. Take all the time you need to create great work before actually having to find a space. So yeah, try not to rush on producing your work. So be kind to yourself and avoid stressing yourself unnecessarily. Second step is knowing what space to show. I found my space before making my work with almost a year of anticipation. It allowed me to not just be conscious about the deadline, but also getting to know the space that I was allowed to show my work at. And here's some questions for you to guide yourself into this particular step. So that space that you found, is it aligned with the context of your work? Do you know the owner of the space, if it has one? Whether or not it's a gallery or a restaurant, I'm talking about whatever kind of space in this step. I don't want to limit yourself to show work only at galleries or museums or any of those institutions. You can if you want to, you can if you have the access or the opportunity to, that's great. But make sure that the space, above all things, at least I believe that your space independently has to be aligned in the context with your work. If the space that you want to use is public, do you know the laws and norms and the parameters of that particular space? And How is your work going to interact with the space? Try to visit the space enough to draw a map out of it, like a bird's eye view, like a kind of like this. Wait. So try to visit the space enough to learn it yourself, almost by memory, and try to draw. I don't know if you can see this, and try to draw some sort of plane situation where you can distribute in what wall do you want your work to be at. And obviously at the beginning, when I was still producing and everything, my work, I had an idea of where I wanted the distribution of my work to be in the space, but obviously you're gonna change this. Eventually in a later step, we'll talk about the changes of where you want to work to be, but eventually you're gonna be able to change this. The point of this is that even though you're gonna change it, you want to bring something to the owner, if the space has an owner, to talk with him or her about where you want your work to be distributed in the space. You want to bring something. You gotta bring something, even though you're gonna change it later. If the space is your house, that sounds really dope, but like, it's up to you. How much time do you want a particular amount of people to be hanging out in your space, looking at your work in your house? Keep in mind that you're gonna end up cleaning up the space yourself. Keep in mind that if you bring an ambitious amount of food and drinks, keep in mind that people might like stay all night until till the AMs and potentially crash at your place, but that's up to you if you're into that. In step 3, you need to know the parameters. Are you selling your work? If yes, are you allowed to sell your work at the owner's space? If so, don't be afraid to tell the owner that you intend to have 100% of your sale up front. The owner should let you know immediately if that might be a problem or not. They will trust you when you're upfront with these things. If they don't come up with any response, if whether or not they allow you to have 100% of your sales, you gotta make sure that they give you a response. Whether they're cool or not with your sales policy, you gotta make sure of the following. You need to be clear with them of how you want your work to be interacting with the owner's space. So whatever the parameters are in these sort of things, you need to take notes about this so you can go around things. If he says no to this, then maybe you can find another alternative of how to be closer to your goal. Record the conversation if you need to, and if the owner is cool with that. Whatever you gotta do to have proof of your agreement, whether it's a recording of the conversation or something written down. It could be even an email, as long as everything is clear on that email, and you guys can always keep consistent with the communication. If there's any questions that you have with the owner or the owner has with you, you gotta make sure that that communication is straightforward. So never assume anything. This is why an agreement in this case exists, to make sure that none of you two assumes anything. Now, you gotta negotiate in this conversation the following things: parking for guests, installation of your work, and what are the parameters, commission of sales if the owner wants a percentage, the allowed amount of people that you can have at the space. You need to know the owner about any hazardous material that your work might have or your installation might have. He needs to know that. Time frame of the opening, the day of install and uninstalling your work, and how the representation of the space is going to be reflected in your marketing step, which we're gonna talk about more. And what I mean by that is how, if there's a logo, if it's a restaurant, for example, where you want to work to be at, does the owner need to have, the logo of his business on your marketing process? But before we go to the marketing step, we're gonna go over to adjustments. So step number 4 is to make adjustments according to the parameters given by the owner, between the owner and you, and whatever you guys agreed. Now this is the time to change things. Now change whatever you need to change. The installation in whatever placement of your work towards the space, whether he allowed you to bring anything in this area or not, or if it's cool to have work there or not, that sort of things. This is a time where you can just do all of those adjustments. The list of materials for installing and uninstalling your work. The price. So maybe you had an initial price in mind, but then the owner was like, oh, hold on, I want a percentage of that. This is the time for you to raise your price. And the representation of the space. Again, whether it's a restaurant or a gallery or any other space with an owner. The owner might have asked you to represent their business or their space in a particular way in your whatever marketing strategy you have. Now step 5 is the marketing of your opening. So I have a friend who recently did his birthday, and he started marketing it. Like, he did an event 3 months ahead. Bitch. So he created an event on Facebook for his birthday 3 months before the actual date. And he invited a bunch of people, around 30 people or so. And he will make a relevant post like 2 to 3 times a week. So maybe once, not to make it too annoying, but it was very consistent. It was such a consistent way of keeping the people engaged and aware of the event in such a clear time frame. It was very simple, very straightforward. So you might want to apply that as an example for organizing your art show and keeping your people aware of this event. Because guys, a lot of people came to the birthday. It was quite lit. It was successful because the expectation and hype was just aligned with the plan. Now apply this to different platforms. Platforms where you might actually invite people. Not just making the event and making it public, but also creating an actual formal invitation to people. Each platform has its own kind of audience. There's email audience, there's Facebook audience, there's Instagram audience, and you know the drill on social media kind of situation. Each platform has its own effective way of building anticipation or building hype in a particular consistency. Like, you're not gonna build expectation through email, sending 3 emails to each person each week. You know what I'm saying? That's actually annoying. If y'all want me to go more in depth about this step, please let me know in the comments below so I can figure something out and giving you some more info about this. Step 6 is paperwork, if you're selling your work especially. Look, paperwork is a boring best friend. That's a crucial job of a gallerist and the artist, I would say. Before I go into detail about paperwork, and you would like to know more a little bit about how to price your work, I already have a video about that. I'm gonna leave it down in the description box so you can check it out. So here are the following documents that you're gonna need, especially if you are selling your work, and documents that you might want to actually bring to the opening. 2 copies of a receipt for each piece. Labels, of course. Try to avoid putting out the labels the day of the opening. Be kind to yourself. An inventory list and an insurance form. Again, let me know in the comments below if you would like me to go more in depth about any of these particular forms that you guys would like to understand more. I'm gonna leave those forms for free in the description box below for you guys to use. Feel free to alternate them. Feel free to change some things according to what you need. I could go in depth with any of these forms in another video. So but please talk to me, like let me know on the comments below. Step 7 is installation day. Make sure you at least install your work at least 2 to 3 days before the actual opening. Have a list of materials that you have to provide and a list of materials that the owner can provide for the space. In case he offered you to bring a ladder or anything like that, just make sure that you have those 2 lists. List of the materials that you should provide and list of materials that the owner can provide and in effect confirm to bring. That list of materials from the owner can work for you as an inventory to make sure that you return those to the owner, making sure you keep track of those things that you borrowed. The reason why I will have more than 2 days to install your work, I can think of 3 main ones. Here you got some time to mess around with the space in terms of like make the changes that you want to do, because you're in person. It's not the same making a map out of the distribution of your work in the space than doing it in person, right? Then allowing yourself to mess around, play around with the distribution of your work in person. This way you can also make sure that you're not making harm to the space, and making sure if you can find different alternatives on how to hang your work. If you're trying to hang your work on a wall and it's not working with in this particular way, you might want to find a different way because it's messing up the wall, or because the owner told you not to use nails. You can work around the parameters that your owner set it up already in the first place. So man, if you wanted to put your work, if you wanted to put a sculpture, the stairs, and the owner might, in the first place was like, nah, I don't want any installation situation on the ladder, please. And then like you gotta remove it, right? How do you work around that, right? In terms of trying to achieve your artistic goals at the same time. You can work around his parameters, but at the same time achieving your artistic conceptual goals that you want to achieve in this place. Take advantage of that time to make as much changes as you need to do. Now, I didn't write this down, but I want to tell you guys about the uninstall sort of situation. Make sure, especially the uninstall process goes in this same clear process that I am talking to you about. You need to be extremely fair with this owner that is allowing you to use his space, her space, to show your work. And you want to uninstall, you want to have that date, a very clear date of uninstalling your work, and let the owner know with anticipation if you can make it, if you cannot make it to that uninstall date. But be really proactive with that, because it's not your space. And just apply the similar steps of installing your work that I just showed you right now with uninstalling your work. Alright, I hope you guys found this video useful. I want to remind you guys that the forms, the how to price your work video link, and the Carraizo Studios shop website link is down in the description box. Feel free to check that out. Please talk to me. Let me know in the comments below if whether or not you need me to go more in depth in any of the elements that I talked about, any of the forms, any of these particular steps that you want me to go a little bit more in depth with, potentially make a video out of that particular step. But talk to me. I want to know what you guys want to know. I want to know what you guys know that I don't know. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking this video, and subscribing after watching all of my videos. I love y'all, and I'll see you on the next video on the Studio in Biz.